From discovering a young petty thief in the ghetto to transforming him into who we now know as Iron Mike Tyson, Constantine Cus D'Amato was the man who forged a mountain by versing him in the art of war. So today, let's pay tribute to the scholar of boxing. In a section of the Bronx called Clayson Point, his Italian family had entered America in 1899. On January 17, 1908, in the New York borough of the Bronx, was born a man who changed the face of boxing as we know it. Cus was born and raised by 8 siblings, all boys. After his mother's passing, his father took over the sole responsibility of the family when Cus was just 4 years old. But interestingly enough, despite being the inspiration behind many boxing careers out there, it was his brother Gerald that inspired him to wear the gloves. From then on forth, Cus had a short-lived career as an amateur boxer. You may be wondering, if Cus was so good, his career should have been up with the Alis. That's the price you pay when you're knee-deep in the art of fighting, though. Sometimes it just gets the better of you. Not many know for sure what caused the injury. Some say it was because of a street fight, whereas some accounts actually say it was his father that was behind it. Despite all the speculation, one thing was for sure, Cus D'Amato had to put his boxing career to a halt due to a serious eye injury. And because he was never granted a professional license to box, he never got to become champion, though he certainly had the heart of one. Seriously, Cus never gave up. He might not have been able to go toe-to-toe with the greats in boxing. He was persistent in his dream to remain one of the most influential figures in the sport, and thus, the Empire Sporting Club was born, which he established alongside Jack Barrow. This iconic gym holds a lot of history. Here, Cus would eat, sleep, and breathe boxing. No, literally, this was his home. But besides all that practice, a major part of his routine was waiting. Waiting for a future champ to walk those halls. And if you think the gym was buzzing with fighters high-fiving, bucking each other up with some motivational music in the back, yeah, you wouldn't have passed Cus's vibe check. 'Cause from the gym's entrance, you were greeted with a wrongly spelled banner, setting you on the wrong foot from the get-go, and from there you were greeted with a dark, steep staircase leading up to the 3rd floor. For fighters seeking a light of hope with boxing, thinking their life would turn around because of it, well, they were greeted with a poorly lit gym, and this became a rite of passage for anyone who chose this life. As Rocky Balboa would say, the world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. The entrance became the first obstacle for young children and fighters to overcome. Before you were face to face with the man who knew war, Cus D'Amato. He told New York Times that whoever climbs up those stairs has it 50% licked, 'cause he's licking fear. This concept was Cus's approach to boxing summed up in a nutshell. But he had his own set of obstacles to overcome. He fought for his gym against the corrupt boxing commissions and authorities that was run by the members of the mafia. That's right, the man knew no fear. At a time when men in suits and ill intentions had the city's officials in their pockets, Cus would rather put on the gloves and defend his gym head on. However, when you're in the fight game, you should also know when to retreat as well. So after winning a legal battle against the IBC that lasted 9 years, Cus sold his Gramercy gym for a whopping $1 and fled to Catskill, New York. Even though he'd sold his beloved gym for $1, the respect he'd garnered during the legal battle made the transition priceless. In 1970, Cus opened the Catskill Boxing Club with one motto: to help troubled youth find their way back in life through the sport of boxing. Befittingly enough, the gym was right above the police station. Guess that was Cus's idea for a human resources department. But what really set him apart from any other boxing coach out there was how he prioritized training the mind more than the body. According to him, boxing was 75% mental and 25% physical. He was a scholar indeed, versing himself in everything he needed to know to help sharpen the minds of young talent till they were invincible. Where most fighters would call the overwhelming nerves before the big fight butterflies, Cus would debunk it, calling it fear. Who knew Cus would be such a romantic? But he was right. What's often overlooked when it comes to fighters behind all the trash talk and personas they do nowadays to sell a pay-per-view is that behind the mask, they are still human. And whoever they may be, no human is immune to fear. Yes, some may conceal it better and fight it off better, which is what Cuss basically wanted to teach everyone under his tutelage. He'd make his fighters memories of sayings that were life lessons, ultimately helping them in the ring too. He didn't have any alarm clocks in the gym, for he believed if someone made up their mind that they would wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, they're making it happen. Though make no mistake, even though he was a harsh coach, he loved each of his students like they were his children. And for that reason, many thrived under Cuss, with big names such as Floyd Patterson and Jose Torres. But let's be honest, you are here for his devotion and love toward Mike Tyson. By the age of 12, Mike had already been there and done that when it came to the ghetto life. From being in and out of juvenile court to snorting cocaine at the age of 11, he'd even tried alcohol when he was just a cub. Cuss found Mike when he was just 13, after he was brought to him by ex-boxer Bobby Stewart. Mike was a kid who had a similar upbringing, being molded by that rough life. Cuss knew exactly what to do with him and inked the papers for his custody, and from that moment on, the two were inseparable. He became his legal guardian, provided food and shelter. Cuss knew Mike had potential. But he was like a wild lion, wanting nothing but carnage and hurting people. He needed to be tamed, and Cuss was the perfect ringmaster to the youngest ever heavyweight champion. If you've seen Mike fight, you can tell he has a trademark style. He isn't the tallest fighter around, but what he does have is a technique developed by Cuss himself. The peekaboo style of boxing has the gloves hover to either side of the cheekbones while the head moves laterally. Cuss's genius basically provided a cheat code for fighting Goliaths, if you were indeed the David. But more than just a coach, Cuss was a father figure to Mike when he was absent throughout his childhood. Mike even referred to Cuss as his white father. He made him study the art of war, from warriors such as Achilles, Napoleon, you name it. Cuss was forging the iron into Mike Tyson. And you can say the rest was history. Sadly, Cuss couldn't really get to see the fruit of his labor in Mike since he passed away in 1985, years before Mike became the youngest heavyweight of all time. Mike was now alone, swimming with the sharks. Some even say that if Cuss was still alive, the world would have never seen the infamous fall of Mike Tyson. But even though he never saw his pupil become champion, his name will forever be immortalized in the sport of boxing. And that was the man behind the making of Mike Tyson.